Sam, I know we have you down as president CEO of Boston Red Sox. I believe, though, your business card requires an alteration to part owner of the Boston Red Sox. Congratulations on adding that bit to the portfolio.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott, Peter, Kirk. Great to be with all of you guys. And I can assure you that is not a new title, but it is one. I appreciate the congratulations. Just know that it should say very, 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 very small a part owner of Fenway Sports Group and the Boston Red Sox. But thank you for that acknowledgement.
Of course. It was one of the bigger stories, though. We're hearing a lot about private equity in sports these days. We're hearing about private equity groups provide capital, that there is a need for liquidity in the market. Just your thoughts on what we're seeing with private investment, private capital into the sports world, particularly baseball right now.
Yeah, it's a really, really positive development. I'm not sure Commissioner Manfred and the ownership committee at Major League Baseball get enough credit for taking the lead on this issue back in 2019 when we changed Rule 20A in the Major League Rulebook and allowed institutional capital to come into the game. These LP positions are so important, and having a new source of liquidity coming into the game is incredibly powerful. We just announced a strategic partnership and investment with Redbird Capital and Jerry Cardinal and Alex Shiner. And of course, they bring capital, but they also bring expertise. And you're seeing people like Arctos getting involved. And it's really, really important when you think about keeping asset values growing. And you have someone like Alex Rodriguez putting groups together. There's my friend A-Rod. You need access to capital for your LP base in addition to the control position. And so really kudos to Major League Baseball for starting this trend back in 2019. We've obviously got Redbird in our cap table. We've got Arctos, and it's great to have them in the sport and in the sports industry more generally. And I know the other leagues are starting to follow the path that was led by Rob Manfred.
I'm wondering, Sam, you've talked about expanding Fenway into other sports assets. I'm wondering if you guys took a look at a basketball club that has been on the market for a few months now, and if maybe somebody else beat you to the punch.
Yeah, as usual, Alex beat us to the punch on that one. I was going to say we were all set post Redbird closing to pivot quickly to the NBA and try and get in, but of course Alex had it all tied up. No, we are a huge admirer of the National Basketball Association and obviously the National Hockey League. It represents a natural place for Fenway Sports Group to look, but we've not had any specific discussions or negotiations with any local markets, but we have, as we've done over our 2 decades here, connected with Adam Silver and his team and Gary Bettman and Bill Daly, just to let them know that at some point we'd love to explore further opportunities in their leagues, and we're looking at international opportunities as well. We're in full on 3.0 mode for Fenway Sports Group after 20 years together, and looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing Alex and his partners get involved in the NBA as well. It's such a great time for our industry generally as we emerge from COVID here, and really excited about the future for Fenway Sports Group.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit with Alex. So, Alex, you were a bidder on the Mets, spearheaded a sports-focused SPAC, and now it's reported, as Sam mentioned, that you're involved in the bidding on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So here's where I put in the Sportico footnote. In our MBA valuations released in January, we had the Timberwolves 28th at $1.43 billion. But I'm curious, can you break any news here today about that process? And what can you tell us about your pursuit of a basketball team?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me. Good afternoon. And Sam, always good to see you, pal. And no breaking news here, but we can tell you that we're very excited about the process. Like Sam said, we're also, very big fans of all four leagues, quite honestly. I think they do a tremendous job. They work very well together. And I think these platforms are getting, even more important and more valuable as of time, because as you get people out there that become wealthier and wealthier, these become more like trophies. So I'm aware of that number you mentioned, Peter, but really no news to share on that end.
Well, Sam perked right up when he saw you join the camera, and he said, "Hello, friend," and he sounded like Jim Nantz. I'm wondering if both of you can talk. Maybe Sam, you can go first about your relationship and expand a little bit on it from your own perspective of how you came to how it came to be that we asked the two of you to appear together. That is how you know each other, and what kind of sports business conversations you've had to date.
Sure. Well, it was getting tiring watching Alex launch bombs over the Green Monster for all those years in the early days. Obviously, the relationship goes all the way back to the early 2000s. This will be my 20th year with Fenway Sports Group and with the Boston Red Sox. And, always have admired. I started my career with the Yankees, believe it or not, as an intern. It was fun to watch Randy before. But I worked for the Steinbrenner family, and John Henry actually started his sports investment career with the Yankees. Little known fact, he was an LP with the Yankees, and just been an admirer of what a brand like the Yankees represent. Of course, we then came to Boston in 2002 and set out to try and overcome the evil empire. We had some good battles over the years, but through Alex's visits to Fenway and through mutual friends and contacts in the industry. More recently, I'd say really since Alex's retirement from playing, we've had several meetings and conversations and just getting to know Alex and the incredible business person that he is. I was particularly impressed with his real estate experience. To start as a young man coming up in professional sports, yet branching out and investing in residential real estate, the way he did so early on was incredibly impressive to me. And then we spent some time together over in London around the games over there. And he has been focused on building out his portfolio, and obviously better to let him talk about it. But we've had conversations over the power of these platform companies. John Henry and Tom Werner, I think, were ahead of their time back in 2002, establishing Fenway Sports Group as more than just a baseball team or a venue. It's a platform company. We have media, we have real estate, we have team ownership, sales and marketing agency. And that really fortifies the business in many ways. And Alex has done the same thing in his own business life. And so we have a lot of friends in common and a lot of mutual respect off the field, I'll say. And it's been fun to get to and rewarding to get to know him and his partners.
Yeah, I mean, echo everything Sam said. And, the one thing that I've really admired from Sam, watching him from afar prior to becoming friends, is really what wonderful relationships he has, what a great reputation he holds, how well he represents the Fenway Group and the Boston Red Sox. As someone who grew up and went to school with Theo Epstein back in middle school and all of that. But what was interesting to me as I studied what John Henry and Tom Werner did, who also friends and people that I admire and respect very much, is they were ahead of their time. If you think about going into as a Seattle Mariner and a Texas Ranger, going to play at Fenway Park prior to their ownership taking over, it was a holistic, different experience. I mean, from the music they played, from the pace, from the fans, from the enthusiasm. Obviously, I don't want to talk about 2004 because I'm embarrassed. I've lost a lot of hair over that. Thank you to Sam and Poppy and company when they beat us in the ALCS in 2004. But they really are. When you look at the consolidation, the M&As, the growing of a portfolio of an incredible platform like the Fenway Group, nobody's done it like them. And then since, a lot of people have copied them as really the gold standard. And what's wonderful about all of them, whether there's Tom Werner, Larry Lucchino, who was a mentor to Sam, who's a great man, John Henry, they're very generous by sharing ideas, sharing best practices, And in this case, more is better. But Sam is someone that I admire. The Red Sox are obviously in great hands with him, and we're similar age. And although we've had different paths, we think about the world of business and relationships in a similar way.
Yeah, Sam, I'd like to ask you, I mean, we had Stan Kasten on. Unfortunately, we didn't hear too much from him earlier. But the Dodgers, part of their franchise is sort of Elysian Ventures and incubators. Your thoughts on those tent poles? What else can Fenway add? You have the real estate, you have the media. Are we looking forward to not only globality, but what are the other tent poles by which you can build the central parts on?
Well, everything is rooted, Scott, in the notion that live content still remains king. We're going through a very interesting time, and I don't use the word interesting for bad as a euphemism for a bad time for the value of live rights. We just don't know. I heard Randy say before, we really don't know what the pay TV ecosystem is going to look like even 3-5 years from now. So we all have to be prepared for how we're going to distribute this incredibly valuable content. But we remain incredibly bullish on the value of live sports rights in all of the different leagues in many, many different countries. So Fenway Sports Group 1.0 was very much about Boston and Fenway Park and the real estate and the Red Sox. 2.0 led us to international expansion, our Liverpool acquisition back in 2010. And now 3.0 is going to be about tripling down, if you will, on new and different teams, leagues, venues, maybe here in North America, maybe abroad. But I think you're going to see more of the same, which is a commitment to blue chip property and getting blue chip management to come in and operate them as we go forward.
Yeah, and Scott, for me, I think that when you think about the Boston Red Sox, we're in such a fluid moment right now. I mean, think about a world where if I was a sponsor and Sam came to me, you look at the rights of Fenway, that wall. There may be a world where in the seventh inning you have 37,000 fans put on glasses, and you have Pepsi and Coke battling for this bottle that jumps out of the ground, and it just lights up the entire Fenway, and is all done through virtual reality. I think that's a world that we can come from. And by the way, every inning, if you put on the glasses, could be a different marketing opportunity. If you think about some of the things that have happened outside of the stadiums, whether it's the Airbnbs and the Ubers, that disruption has not quite happened inside stadium, where you may have dynamic ticketing in real time. Sam leaves the game in the sixth inning. He sells it to me for 1/8 of the price. But growing up as a kid, that resonates with me because I couldn't afford the $300 ticket, but maybe I could afford a $30 ticket for 3 innings. So there's a lot of ways that I think the pandemic is going to push all of us to think about not just TV and where that's going to be in 5 years, but what else can we do to add value to these great platforms?
A-Rod, during the Mets process, you and I had a discussion about sort of bringing further entertainment property to the events themselves. That was sort of the centerpiece of your bid, that there's a different way to make these entertaining. Are the games not enough anymore? Do younger fans particularly expect more than just watching Alex Rodriguez hitting home runs?
When Sam and I grew up, we were satisfied watching the Red Sox for him, the Mets for me, 7 days a week. And then on Monday, we'll buy our Topps baseball cards and be happy we're chewing the gum and that we got, Keith Hernandez on our cards. That's not enough today because the consumer consumes differently. I think the key for our business is to attract young people, and we have to be able to go where they play, right? Whether it's TikTok or whether it's Instagram, and bringing entertainment and alignment and, collaboration between the hottest TikTokers and Major League Baseball. And by the way, if you win, there's a package where we bring you to the All-Star game and the World Series. That's one side of it. But entertainment, the one thing that NBA and NFL has done extremely well, which I think has upside for us in Major League Baseball, is they're crystal clear. They're not in the sports business. They're in the entertainment business. As an example, my daughters, who are 16 and 13, they wouldn't be caught dead watching baseball. However, they will watch the Super Bowl because of the halftime show and the commercials. So the lesson for us, same thing with NBA and basketball, is there an opportunity for us to make the greatest Hall of Fame festival around the Hall of Fame, where you can have some of the most incredible panels, some of the greatest entertainers, And instead of having a few thousand people there, you may have a few 100,000 people there or more throughout a whole week, because it really is an incredible content opportunity, storytell. And there's a lot of people like me, younger, older, that would love to be part of a big week like that, and the All-Star Game and the World Series. So a lot of upside on the entertainment side.
Alex, I really hope you
the stars of baseball better compete with those NFL stars and NBA stars.
Kurt, can you repeat the question?
I'm wondering how you market those MLB stars on a national level to compete with these NBA stars who are on a global level, really, and then the NFL, who are known throughout the country.
Well, Sam, I can tell real quick on the key for us, Kurt, is very basic. It's simple. Is content and contact. As an example, on Sunday night, we had the Dodgers and the Padres. Around midnight on an extra inning game, we had over 2 million people watching. That means that if the content is good and you make a lot of contact and is an action game, is a dynamic game. They played 4 games and averaged over 3 hours and 30 minutes. I watched every one of them. I was there Thursday night. It was an event. It was like the Super Bowl. It felt bigger than a regular season game. And even though it was 3 hours and 30 minutes, it felt like 30 minutes. So you have personalities. It reminds me a lot of what we had in 2004, Sam, with you guys playing against us, Red Sox, Yankees. And little brother said, you know what? You beat us up enough. We're ready to stand up, and we're going to talk trash. We had a fight. We had this. And inevitably, you guys took over. The Padres should look at the 2004, which is a lot of similarities, even with their personalities, polarizing, aggressive. They don't care that they've been beat up for 50 years. They think they can beat the Dodgers. And I think that's an opportunity for baseball and for the Padres. Is the new best rivalry in baseball.
Yeah,
Alex,
I would. Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead, Sam.
I would just add that baseball, with all due respect to colleagues in the industry and the other leagues and teams, baseball, in my mind, represents the greatest game ever invented. It is the hardest game to be successful at. The talents of Major League Baseball players have me in awe, and we represent a sport that actually has more attendees on an annual basis than all the other major sports combined. We have more eyeballs watching our games because we play every single night, night in and night out. And our sport represents the absolute best content for corporate brands to associate with. We happen at a time of year in prime time when there's not a lot else going on in the world of professional sports. So sometimes, we take our lumps given that the world has changed. And when Alex is exactly right, I used to go to games in the 7th or 8th inning and sneak in because I grew up down the street, and, it was a different time. There weren't as many choices. But baseball still resonates with our fan base. We just have a very different product from some of the other sports. And so I think we need to keep doing what we've always done in our sport, which at the end of the day is celebrate the players that make up Major League Baseball, are athletes unlike any other athletes in the world. And we have a new young brand of players that resonate with people all over the globe, and we're connecting with them in new and different ways. So I think the best days for baseball are in front of us. I really believe that. And we need to continue to celebrate the sport in our local markets and do it in a way where we are, just as Alex said, we're connecting with that next generation of fans where they are, when they're there, when they want it, whether that's on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram. And when they come to our ballparks, just as Alex said, give them the best possible experience we can at our different venues. And I think it's a challenge given there's so much competition out there, but we're up for it. And the best days for baseball are definitely ahead of us.